If you want your makeup to look like this and to last all day, stay a while because I'm going to be going through my step-by-step makeup routine that gets my makeup to look exactly like that and last literally all day. I've gotten a lot of requests to make a makeup tutorial. I'm by no means a professional at all, but I have had a lot of experience doing my makeup this past year, and I feel like I got my routine pretty down pat. So enough yapping, time to get into the makeup routine. Arguably, the most important step of your makeup routine is going to be your skincare. So first, I like to start off by using these under eye patches. I don't use these every day, but the days that my under eyes need a little bit more moisture, I put them on. I use these under eye patches from Mixsoon. They make my under eyes feel so moisturized after. And some problems that I've experienced in the past with under eye patches is that it separates my skincare, but I don't have that problem with these ones. For my actual skincare, I use these two Rhode products. First, I use the peptide glazing fluid. You obviously don't need to use this one, but I do recommend it. It makes my skin feel so good. And then I use the Rhode Barrier Buttercream. Everybody recommends this for a reason. It makes my skin so moisturized, and it actually holds the moisture all throughout the day. Okay, so now that you've let your skincare set into your skin, it's time for primer. So I use the Power Grip Primer. I use 2 pumps of this, and then I spread it all over my face. I mainly focus in my T-zone area because right here tends to get really oily, so I want my product to actually stick down to this. Okay, while we let the primer set, I like to go ahead and do my eyebrows. I use the NYX brow glue. I've tried many brow glues, but none really compared to this one. Other ones leave white casts on my eyebrows. This one never does. What I like to do is I like to take the applicator and I run it through my eyebrows. And then after I've done that, I push all my eyebrows up and then slide them along my eyebrow to create the shape that I like. The reason that I run the applicator along my eyebrows like this is so that the gel can actually get into my eyebrows instead of just sitting on top of them. Okay, your primer should be set into your skin now, so now it's time for a foundation. Personally, for me, for everyday use, I don't like to use a heavy foundation, so I use the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. Everybody talks about this. And then I use the Fenty Beauty Skin Tint. So I use the shade Tan or 5.5, and I don't like to put too much of this on just because it can make you look a little greasy. So this is about how much I put on my skin. I don't recommend putting it right here, especially if you get oily there, because a product like this is not going to help mask the oiliness. And then before I blend this out, I just put some of the skin tint on over top of it. I use a foundation brush. I feel like this is kind of controversial. Some people like to use a sponge, some people like to use a brush. I say use whatever you're most comfortable with. I use a brush first just to distribute the product all around my face without picking it up so that it doesn't look patchy. And then when it's pretty much dispersed like this, I like to take my makeup sponge and then just blend it. So now that your foundation is all laid down, I like to go in with bronzer next. I use the Say Sun Melt Bronzer in the shade Pan Bronze. I also use the Say Dual-Ended Brush for this. But what I like to do is I pick up the product. I pick up a lot of product actually. And then I just dab it onto my hand to kind of like warm it up and work it into the brush. And then I place the bronzer kind of all around my face. And then with the leftover product that I have on the back of my hand, I use the small end of the brush to contour my nose, I guess. But I just go along the tip of my nose and then along the sides, and I bring it up into my eyebrow area. And then if you feel like your bronzer kind of looks unblended, especially here, I just take the same foundation brush and I use that to diffuse the product. Moving on to everybody's favorite step is blush. So I use the Merit Flush Balm in the shade of Prey, and then I warm it up on the back of my hand. Make sure to put enough product so that when you pick it up with your brush, it actually gets picked up and it's not just blending into your hand. And then I apply it right above where I put my bronzer. I love a deep tone blush because I feel like it looks more natural. And then whatever product is left on my brush, I'll put on the bridge of my nose and then my forehead. Then anywhere where you feel like it's not blended enough, I go with my sponge and then I diffuse. I feel like that just makes so much of a difference. Alright, now time to brighten up our face. So I personally use 2 concealers. Whenever you're working with concealer, you want to use very light layers. When I started doing makeup, I would use very heavy layers of concealer and it would patch up a lot throughout the day and crease really bad. So here are the 2 concealers that I use. The first one that I use is more of a match to my skin tone. So I use the Glossier Pot Concealer in the shade Medium Tan. As you can see, I use this up, but what I like to do is I take some and put it on my brush. I just use a Rare Beauty concealer brush brush. This is really dirty, so please mind your business. And I lightly place it under my eyes. I don't blend it out underneath my eyes with the brush, so I just place it where I'm gonna want my concealer. Something like this. It obviously doesn't look blended or anything. And then I'll take my makeup sponge and whatever product I place on the back of my hand, I pick it up and I use it to blend the concealer out. Okay, so now that everything is kind of looking the same skin tone, I use the Tower 28 concealer in the shade Poly. I think that's how you say it. And then like with everything else, I put some on the back of my hand, and then whatever is left on the applicator, I just put a small amount underneath my eyes. I don't like to put it directly right up under my eye because it kind of gets really hard to blend. And then I just pick it up with my beauty blender and blend. So this is what our base is looking like so far. If you feel like anything looks splotchy, I definitely recommend using the foundation brush to go in and blend everything out. There's no need to put any extra product on your face because that will just start making things look patchy. So typically if I'm going out somewhere, this is the part where I would put my first layer of setting spray. I use the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, but because I'm just staying home, I'm not going to do that step. But if you want your makeup to last all day, I definitely recommend putting setting spray on right now. Okay, so now to set our under eyes. If you're just starting out with makeup, I would recommend using the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder. When I started out using makeup, I would try to use loose powders and I did not ever like how my makeup turned out. But when I started using the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder, I did start liking my makeup and it looked more natural, I guess you could say. I just use the lightest shade and it brightens up my face. But more recently, I started using the Huda Beauty Easy Bake powder in the shade Cherry Blossom. But for the sake of today's video, I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder. And I use my very dirty powder puff. Please, 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 please. I know it's bad. And I press the excess off into my hands. And then I just apply directly underneath my eyes. Honestly, if you're kind of scared of powder, go light-handed at first and then add some more if you feel you need to. And I just take whatever excess is left on my powder puff and I put it on my face just to set the rest of my face. Okay, so this is how my face is looking after pressed powder. We definitely probably feel like we lost a little color in our face, so this is the part where we go in with our powder bronzer. I use the Makeup by Mario powder bronzer in the shade Medium Dark. And then I use the Morphe powder bronzer brush. You can always build product up, but you can't take it off, so definitely go light-handed at first. And then what I also like to do is I put it underneath my chin like this with the excess product, and I drag it down to my neck so it doesn't look unblended or choppy. Okay, so now time for the best part, which is blush. I use these two. So I use the NYX Buttermelt blush in the color Deep Rosewood, and I use the Juvia's Place blush in volume 4. Me personally, I use the tiniest bit of this because it goes a long way. Like, it's crazy actually. And then I just use it to set where I put the cream blush. And then to blend in the blush with my under eye, that's when I use the lighter shade blush. I don't know if it's just because like in my head I know that I put two different colors, but I feel like it transitions it much more seamlessly. So now because we're looking very matte, I like to go in with my highlighter now. I use the Benefit Cookie highlighter, and I use this pencil brush also from Morphe, and I use the tiniest bit on the tip of my nose and along the bridge. Alright, now it's time for eyeshadow. I just recently started getting into eyeshadow, but what I like to do is I take my bronzer in an eyeshadow fluffy brush. I take the smallest amount and I put it all along my eyelid. I feel like I just love the way that that color looks. And then I'll take my powder and this flat eyeshadow brush and I'll pat it all along the top of my eyelid. And then I take this Makeup Forever artistic color pencil, so you can use this for your eyes, your lips. I literally use it for both. I don't know if that's like not a good thing to do, but I do. It's in the shade Limitless Brown, and I put it all along my lash line. I've tried to use black eyeliner and I don't like the way it looks. It looks too unnatural on me, so I like the way that the brown looks. It adds the definition and color without it looking too harsh. And before we put on mascara, this is when I go in with my setting spray. Don't worry about putting too much powder or anything. It helps set your makeup, so please do it. And then the setting spray brings it back to life. It's definitely something I had to learn the hard way because I never wanted to put powder on my face, and then I would wonder why my makeup would disappear halfway through the day. Alright, now we're down to the final stretch, so now it's time for mascara. My favorite mascara is the Bad Gal Bang Benefit Mascara. 2 coats of this will make it look like you have false lashes on. And then I use the Shiseido eyelash curler. Okay, this is how my mascara turned out. My most recent addition to my makeup routine is I take my bronzer or any dark color eyeshadow and I take a brush that looks like this and I take the product underneath my eyes. I feel like it makes my eyes pop. I don't know if you can see the difference. Maybe it's like a placebo effect, but I love the way that it looks. This is my base and eyes all done. So now for the final part, which is my lips. So I take the same color, Limitless Brown by Makeup Forever, and I just line my lips like normal. And then I use this Tower 28 lip gloss in the color Pistachio. And then the very last step, if I were to go out today, would be to use the One Size On Till Dawn. This is no joke. It does keep your makeup on all day. I used this for cheer and my makeup never moved, so I highly recommend this. But because I'm not going anywhere, I'm gonna skip that step today. But this is my final makeup look. I hope that this helped you guys out. I've gotten so many requests to make this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a few things from it. As always, make sure to subscribe and follow my Instagram and TikTok linked in my description below. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching.